those flowers would indicate to me that, tag, you're it. Now it's your turn. Cannot say that all of every celebrity cards is on the table. Diddy, in a weird way, has an advantage now, especially at the level he's on. Hey, I'm the only one of my kind that all my cards are on the table. They've took me to town about what I quote unquote have done. I've came back with 5 years and now 50. You're standing over there working with them people trying to steal. All right, my turn. But if you pay attention, even when they intro the video, even when they intro the interview, how does the mainstream platforms intro the interview with 50 Cent about the Diddy documentary? They always speak to his long-term feud. This is corporate America effectively throwing 50 under the bus. Now, we the kind of that'll take lemon and make lemonade, that'll take the scraps and make soul food. So they gotta be careful, because he may know what he's trying to do with it, but I'm telling you, they throwing him under the bus. There's no reason for them to speak on any kind of backlash that's been going on Twitter and Instagram when they're on mainstream media. But there's an agenda attached to it, because that footage that they got was because they had a working relationship with Diddy. I always told them, I'm the one made the biscuits from batter. I'm the one done it from scratch. And to God be the glory, I'm now looking at the new Benz without the bells and whistles. I was just on pins and needles. Yo, welcome to What's Up There podcast. I am your active and attractive host, Big Loon. You already know. Hit that like, hit share, let somebody know I was there. I bear witness to the game. If you're here, come to patreon.com. It's Up There podcast. That's where my congregation is. That's where my sanctuary is. We come to put the game down. I hope you guys enjoy every time we do these solo episodes. I do see the growth, and I do want to thank y'all from the center of my soul. It's nothing like this show. Let's just be clear. Let's just set the record straight, because, I don't want to sound arrogant. I had a long conversation with some of my loved ones about, I never want to come off arrogant, but I'm always going to come off truthful. And sometimes the truth can feel like disrespect when I'm reaching for the same goal that you're reaching for. When people didn't expect you to get as far as you got, sometimes it can feel disrespectful when you say, I've encountered things I've overcame. I've been faced with things that I have conquered. And so it's important for me to stand up and let my children know, if nothing else, my audience know, the people that believe in me know, I'm a warrior. Don't cry for me, pray for me, pray for visibility. Don't pray it don't rain for me, pray for windshield wipers. Pray for an umbrella. Don't pray it don't get cold for me, pray for a coat, pray for heat. Pray for understanding. I'm moving in a way that I don't give a who in the way. They got to get out the way or they get rolled over. And that don't exclude anyone, because God has placed me on a mission, and only a few men can hit me and feel me. Only a few women can identify with what's coming out of my mouth. I'm on a mission. It's a different level. And so while I'm in that pocket, let me speak with clarity for people out there, because sometimes it's just important to recalibrate. And first of all, let me give God the glory. But there's no solo show anywhere on YouTube in our niche, in our field, that matters to our culture, that's doing the numbers I'm doing alone. I'm speaking about solo episodes. I want to be clear about that. And not because I'm arrogant. It's because I'm noticing that some of these people are withholding my name in some of these conversations, in which is warranted. They should be mentioning my name, but they're hiding the results. And so pretty soon I'm going to have to go on my Trump campaign and let you know they rigging the election. And so when I speak about these numbers, I'm not talking about something that I'm just pulling out of osmosis. And this ain't arrogance talking, it's arithmetic. This is numbers speaking. And there's so many conversations, even with people that I think we're pretty cool. They don't mention my name. They don't say, yo, man, like how Loon is done, man. And I've done bigger things than everyone that they mention. And I always take that and wonder, is that hate, or are they trying to bury the bone? So many times I feel like an invisible giant. Some of the things I'm able to do, and with God's grace, I'll be able to do even more and feed my family, as which y'all support. But yeah, this game gets sticky, bro. But a lot of these individuals, they don't withhold my name because they don't know who I am. Because I'm starting to be uncomfortable with the amount of people that know who I am. I'll be completely honest. But it ain't because they don't know who I am that they withhold my name. It's because if they say my name, they feel as though it costs them some social currency. And we're living in an atmosphere, in a culture, in an environment where all of these individuals are trying to guard their social spot, their social currency. Notice how if black podcasters really could work together, we'll run the market. But we're too busy competing with one another because there's too many suckers that's at the forefront. And I'll say it plainly. But we'll get more into that on Patreon, man. I see that I talked about the Diddy documentary last week. We had some audio issues in which we had to drop it in 2 parts. I didn't appreciate that, and we're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. We put in checks and balances, so y'all bear with us. Again, we've been dropping a lot of content, so hopefully you guys appreciate that. But that Diddy documentary, you know, I seen a bunch of things in there that stuck out to me. In particular, the mother part. I didn't feel as though when they spoke about how Diddy approached his mom after that catastrophic event took place in which some people died, and he said, yo, man, the guy's mom came up to him and she was concerned with, yo, did you make the right decision? You left college. And he smacked his mom. And man, I couldn't believe that. I even spoke with my mom, and I just don't think black boys do that. Black boys to their mother, they don't do that. Now, can they be raised into doing some stupid shit? Yeah. Can they get extremely upset or something provoke them? But for his mom to be approaching him out of concern and for them to say that he smacked her, that right there struck me as odd. On top of that, I felt as though the documentary didn't focus and beam in on the sexcapades. I thought we was really gonna get into like, yo, this is what he was charged with. We're gonna outline some of this. We're gonna go into the hotels. We're gonna go and get some of the participants. We really gonna break down how Diddy got away with doing this for 25 years. Again, I still share the opinion that they were working on 2 separate documentaries. They mashed them together and used 50 Cent as a cultural shield because they were doing business with Diddy and they didn't want to be perceived as sleazeballs. And so they used 50 to be perceived as the quote unquote sleazeball in this move. But I feel as though they was working on 2 documentaries. It felt like a smashed together project. It felt like there was a Tupac documentary going on, maybe with Keefe D and Diddy was involved. And then there was a documentary going on about the trial. But the documentary going on about the trial was the B option. I feel as though the documentary with Diddy was the A option. When he bagged out, it left them already invested in a Diddy type of documentary. And so they wanted to recoup some of that money. We put both of these together, put 50 Cent involved for the extra marketing and to hide behind some of the unethical behavior that some people are pointing out. And we'll be able to position it in the market. Now, 50 Cent did come out a few days ago after the release of Diddy's documentary on Netflix called The Reckoning and said that, yo, I received some flowers. And he said they were from Diddy. Let's look at what 50 Cent said. Pay attention to this. So according to this, Diddy sent them some flowers. And he says, what kind of shit is this? Diddy sent me some flowers to Club 11. Why all the foreplay? Get busy. You know I'm stupid. A warning, I'm 90s grimy. You don't warn me. Now let's zoom in on this. So it says 50 Cent's name, and he says Diddy sent him those flowers. If I'm going to take that at face value and believe Diddy sent flowers or someone on Diddy's team sent flowers, what I would say to 50 Cent is this. I believe Diddy to be sitting in jail. He's past the upset mode at this point. He's now going to get strategic on 50, and I think 50 has to be careful because now those flowers would indicate to me that tag, you're it. Now it's your turn. So when I do get out, I'm going to throw all my financial might behind trying to figure out what it is you've been involved in. Because you now have established that it ain't no code. Right? We use our money. We use our resources. We work with white people. We do documentaries. We do books. We post about it. Nigga, we do interview. Like y'all done established now in this new age, ain't no code. If there's an issue, it's wide open with it. We see these young that'll FaceTime they opposition and say, I love you and all kind of shit. Like they just on some other shit nowadays. So if I'm going to take 50 at face value and think Diddy sent these flowers, he's basically saying, yo, you be prepared, son. Because when I get out of this jail cell, I'm going to use all my money and influence and hope you don't got nothing in your closet. Because if I'm Diddy, they've already did everything they can do to me. They threw a life sentence at me and tried to take my entire fortune. I end up with 5 years. All of my cars are on the table. You cannot say that all of every celebrity cars is on the table. Diddy, in a weird way, has an advantage now, especially at the level he's on. Hey, I'm the only one of my kind that all my cars are on the table. And I know the places y'all do everything at, because all of us go to the same spots, because there's this secret society. That's what they call the Illuminati. It's because everyone of a certain magnitude and of a certain stature goes to certain places and does things a certain way. And so Diddy would be the only one in that fold, or has been in that fold. All of his chips are on the table. They've took me to town about what I quote unquote have done. I've came back with 5 years and now 50. You're standing over there working with them people trying to steal. All right, my turn. All this fan love and war. I've done my time. I get out. I'm still rich. I'm still connected. I'm still Diddy. We're going to see what this is. Let's figure it out. I was talking to one of my guys the other day. He done made it to a camp. You know, he on his last stretch to get out from the feds, and I was communicating with him, and I was telling him I'm out here trying to save lives. I'm out here really a part of the culture, pushing the right message, and I'm having trouble with some of these forefathers, some of these people that's been in position for a while. They ain't passing the information around. It ain't the money we need, it's the technique. Where to go, where to spend the money, who to hit up, who to make this happen, and no one is communicating in black culture, right? And so I'm speaking to him about, I'm still trying to save lives. I'm putting it all in the content, right? Young come up to me, old men come up to me, people trying to start shows come up to me, say, bruh, any advice you can give me? I get asked that at least 5 times a day when I go out, at least 5 times a day. And that's within a span of a couple hours that I'm out, just out and about. 5 people ask me, is there any advice you can give me? And I always trying to tell them, be patient and try to arrive alive. And I was building on that message because I seen it on Instagram, and I was like, yo, that's such a great idea, right? Black men, sometimes we have trouble just trying to arrive alive. And people didn't understand. And so I went to explaining and breaking it down. And I was saying it ain't even about getting to your goals. It's about the condition you're in when you finally get there. Because the distance is more dangerous than the destination. So it's about how you arrive. What condition you gonna be in when you arrive, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually. You can get caught up and work so hard for something that by the time you get it, you ain't worth shit. Now you've caught fatigue. You've burnt out. Right when it's time for you to shine, right when the lights are bright, right when they need you to come through, you can no longer get it done. You ever seen a rapper that was on fire in the street? Soon he signed a deal, he can't produce nothing no more. There's a number of reasons why, one of those being the journey is mentally taxing. I notice amongst my peers too, right? When you look at the game or you look at the youngsters, they done convinced it's a get rich quick scheme. Everybody think you can just flip over and get the money real fast. It take a long time to get a lot of money. I've heard that from some people with a whole lot of money. And so because they think there's this get rich quick scheme, their expectations lead to that disappointment. You can't be so quick to want to hit cruise control. See, people don't even understand cruise control is a luxury in life, to be able to put your business on autopilot. Oftentimes you'll hear people working for a company, man, I got to work on Christmas Eve, and I bet you the CEO is at home with his family. They really are not understanding that cruise control is a luxury that only work can provide. You can't just jump to be the CEO and don't work on Christmas Eve. There was probably 15 Christmases that you worked prior to these that they see. And so you can't just hit autopilot as soon as you get on the road. You got to build up. You got to shift through the gears. It'd be 1,000 people that just started that want to go get the Rolls Royce and go live in the Bentley building and get the big boy condo and the $200,000-$300,000 setup. But it's unrealistic. You got to know, homie, don't nothing start with momentum. That ain't even the law of physics. And so before you can even put your life on cruise control, before you can even compare yourself to somebody that been hustling 15, 20 years, you got to put it in the proper perspective. You got to remember, this shit started on foot. This shit started on fumes. Then you shift through the gears. Then you able to put it in cruise control and autopilot after you done put the work in, but you can't skip the work. You got to have endurance with elevation. And so if somebody just take you to the top of the mountain, you will die soon as you get there, because the climb develops the lungs. And so in the journey is where you get the tools and the techniques. And that's why they ain't fuck with you. You pick up things along the way that you'll use when you get there. You can't be so quick to put your life on autopilot. You got to know it's work to be done. Even though I'm getting money, I got to get information. Because people has failed from hiding this. Because they didn't develop the lungs on the climb. The shit is like the further you get in a video game, the better weapon selection you get. You ever notice when you playing a video game, they start you off with the little 9mm. Once you get 3 or 4 hours into the game, then you got an SMG with a scope, a silencer, and full metal jacket on it, right? You get better selection the further you go in the journey. And some of these suckers will think just because we both got guns, we the same. Just because we both talking, we the same. Man, listen, man, that ain't what separates us, young blood. See, we both got weapons. We're separated by our attachments. I'm separated from most of these by my technique. And so I'm one of the few that didn't just make it out. I made it out with life in me. I made it out with my morals intact. That's a totally different bracket of blessing. I made it out without a scratch on me. I sit back and I watch people lose themselves. And the older you get, the more information you get, you see how life can swallow you whole. I see individuals, they shapeshift depending on the room they're in. And that's why along the way they lose themselves. You run into people that knew you and they don't know you. It's on some get out kind of shit. You shape shifted to get in so many different rooms and do so many different things that you no longer have any fingerprint or any identity. And so my flex was never look where I am on. My flex is always look what I didn't lose getting here. You know, there's a skill set required to decode some of these things that's happening in culture. And I think that a lot of the people that's communicating on behalf of what's going on or what you're seeing from their vantage point, they're incorrect. I see this age-old situation and conversation going along or going around about Trap Lord Ross. I've had him on the platform. He's negated to come back on the platform because when he came on the platform, there was conversation had that I'm not sure he was able to wiggle his way out of, like you see him do on a lot of these platforms. He did another documentary about Young Boy and something with 19 bodies. Interesting documentary, interesting piece. I didn't even watch it. I'm no longer interested in diving deep into some of these cultural documentaries told from people who I'm sure their understanding is off. Their understanding is off, and this is no disrespect to Trap Lord Ross, but you have no understanding. You have to decode the culture. We intentionally put it in coded language, and there's reason behind that, and I won't get into that today. I'm going to unpack that on a major platform at some point, but I watch people like Trap Lord Ross and other people that operate in media move around with a limited understanding and arrested development as it pertains to understanding culture, and all I think about is it's not necessarily all their fault. They do have to share some of the blame. They're grown men, but I even look at our children. I even look at the youngsters, and I said we've also confused them because we haven't decoded our culture enough, right? We talk with this high-level slick talk, right? We talk in a certain way that you have to have a certain understanding and vocabulary to even keep up with it, right? If you notice, they even in Atlanta at this point, they ain't even saying the word, but everybody in Atlanta know what's going on. There's a reason, like you did, we haven't done a great job at decoding the culture, and so sometimes our babies are even lost in it. There's a message in particular that I don't agree with. I don't think we should have pushed on the babies or on the teenagers or even on the youngsters. In the entertainment business, you will hear people always say you got to have the streets. That's too confusing. We should have decoded that years ago for our youngsters. I think that has led us to a lot of violence as it pertains to our culture because people has mishandled this term streets. Like you got to have the streets. A lot of kids and a lot of young rappers took that as, you got to have a criminal background. You got to have some kind of stripes in culture to even be speaking this kind of way, and that's not what that meant. What they're saying is you have to have people that enjoy your music in your city. But because we have been very lazy with our communication and we've been intentional with keeping it slick, That's with intention. This is our hustle we're using. So when we communicate it, we can't, right? It's a reason for that. But at the same time, our babies are now trying to understand what we're saying. And something as small as you got to have the streets behind you can lead a young black boy into criminal culture thinking, I can't rap without some kind of stripes on my back. I can't even be talking like that. Like, I've saw this new culture of rap make children cosplay like they're depressed. Because some of these rappers have a close relationship with their grandmother, and their grandmother raised them because their mother wasn't in their life. I've saw children whose mothers been there from day one ignore that fact because their favorite rapper grew up with their grandmother, and now I miss my grandmama. My grandmama the only one love me, right? It's like they're trying so hard to relate to the rapper. Again, us as the OGs in the culture, we got to decode some of it for our babies. Not all of it. Like for things of that nature, like when we say, yo, get the streets, we ain't talking about no criminal thing. Go just get people that believe in your music around your way. Like, let us see them believe in it. And I also disagree with that. I think in 2026, that's a field. So I'm not even sure I agree with none of that. But at the same time, I do want to clarify that if somebody in entertainment business tell you to go get the streets, they better clarify that they talking about music. Don't let these sitting in these $1 million cars and shit send you on no crash mission. You understand me? But it's good we got shows like mine now because I understand the young black boys are watching. I'ma decode some of it for you, youngster. Just pick up what I'm putting on the ground for the hungry hound and stay around. I'm gonna make sure you eat. You hear me? And that's why we don't listen to these old guys running around telling we giving game. We giving y'all ain't giving no game. Y'all ain't helping nobody and y'all ain't putting nobody on their feet. Y'all really putting folks on their back. A lot of these people are not influencers, they defluencers. A defluencer is not the same as an influencer, but because we're in the new age, nobody has categorized it. But you'll have a lot of these old running around talking about, yo, you ain't got to choose that life, youngster. That ain't the message that you should be giving, but you so far removed, you just running around getting the checks on behalf of the culture. You ain't really tapped in. The message ain't you ain't got to choose that life. The message is young, that life will choose you. If you play the middle for long enough, that life will choose you. You'll find yourself in a situation that'll make you go to the streets. You know why? You'll find yourself arrested, can't get a job. Now you gotta hustle when you had the opportunity to go the other way. Because what I find in our young people nowadays is they play in the middle of the street. They got on the shiesty mask, but they work at Kroger's. And so I don't want to play that game with them. I want to let them know that you doing the right thing when you going to work, but you cosplaying as a gangster. And it come with things that you ain't going to be able to shake when you take that mask off. You hear me? So you got to choose to go the other way. Get out the middle of the street. The cars belong there. And so we got far too many young people that's in the middle. They cosplaying as rappers and gangsters, and the rappers ain't decoding the message because a lot of them don't know what we told them. A lot of them is just going off some of the game we done laid down, but they can't break it down. That's why I'm so important. That's why I be wondering why they ain't bigging this shit up when they know they can't break it down, when they know they can't decode the culture. We've been intentional with hiding it from you suckers. So damn right we get upset when y'all sitting and got it wrong. You don't know what you're speaking about. And it's not criminal culture. You got to really listen to people that did it. All of these you see hiding in the house and sitting with celebrities and they out the way and you ain't never seen them help nobody. Not even their peers. They won't even invite other podcasters in their atmosphere. Black podcasters in Shambles and all these clapping. But I feel safe. Guess why? I understand. They gonna listen to the people they know done it. It's unfortunate. But see, I'm still alive. I arrived alive. I'm okay. I ain't like these other that arrived bitter, beat up, broke. I arrived alive. And so we ain't on shaky grounds. Ain't nobody mad but them. Don't think I don't see them. It don't hurt my feelings. I've always told them I'm the one made the biscuits from batter. I'm the one done it from scratch. And to God be the glory, I'm now looking at the new bins without the bells and whistles. I was just on pins and needles. I was just on pins and needles. Now I'm looking at the new Benz without the bells and whistles. Ain't God good? Won't he do it? But they got to listen to people who's done it. People who's experienced. They know, they can feel it. You ain't got to say nothing. They know the texture. They know the different kind of hoodies. I know that ain't Gucci. That hoodie too light. I know that ain't one of them. Or you ain't even really got to say it. But in the entertainment industry, you got to beat your chest because they'll bury you up under bullshit accolades and bullshit connections. So you got to be loud and say, I did it without them folks. God made sure to touch and bless this thing in a way where they couldn't interfere with it. And Lord knows the audience can feel when you relatable. You can't cosplay up close. You can't cosplay up close. One of the few people that actually arrived alive. I was watching the other day, a video went out of John Cena and Big Show, their legendary wrestlers. And the way that they walked told the story. You see John Cena, he walked and hunched over. Big Show, more of the same, hunched over. Seemed like they're hurting, they're wrestlers. They made their money using their bodies, sacrificing. That by the time you even get the belt, you can't even walk and hold it up. You can't even enjoy the fruits of your labor. You've beat your body up to get everything to feed your people. And most people get here like that, but they need to hear from people that's actually been through the journey, because you only get the lungs on the climb. It's confusing because a lot of people are at the top of the mountain. Some people been brought there, baby. Other people have climbed there. You need to speak with the climbers. That's what I tell my children. If I can tell you something that's just in a parable, only talk to the climbers, because they the only people that know how to maneuver when the kitchen get hot. They say pressure bust pipes. And see, when the kitchen get hot and the temperature rise, if you've never been there, you don't know how to react. You'll grab that same skillet that used to save you and it'll scorch you because the temperature is risen. You need a glove to carry that skillet now. Just to feed yourself, you've now harmed yourself. Also, let me say this about the Diddy documentary. I've been paying attention to 50 Cent doing a couple of interviews, and I have some questions. So before we get out of here, I also want to speak about this. 50 Cent went and done an interview with, I believe this is NBC, ABC, one of the major news outlets. And we're going to react to some of what he said, and I'm going to try to contextualize what I feel, my opinion, my thought process. Pay attention to 50 Cent on ABC. Here it is.
The recent trial, which saw him acquitted on the most serious charges, including RICO, but convicted for prostitution crimes that landed him in prison for about 2 more years. Diddy's team is also rebutting this project as a, quote, shameful hit piece. They note the obtained footage was not authorized for release. Netflix says they legally obtained the videos. In addition, tonight, another dynamic here is that another famous rapper is, of course, behind this film, 50 Cent, who has long publicly clashed with Diddy and has recently expanded into a wide range of film and TV projects. He has plenty to say about Combs' record. The rapper, actor, and producer joins me now. He's sold over 30 million albums, won all kinds of awards and accolades along the way, and is now a successful film and TV producer. And we're also joined by his colleague on the project, Alexandria Stapleton, an Emmy-winning showrunner and director of this series. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Oh, man, thanks for having us.
Always great to have a 50-day.
Yeah, it's always going to be good. Great for ratings.
There we go. It's an important project, clearly. The question for both of you, 50 first, why this project? Why now?
Well, we waited until after the results of the trial to release the project, but I started like almost 5 months before I was able to find Alex, and finding an Emmy Award-winning showrunner and director is detrimental to the project being really well put together. So, you know, they should expect it to perform like Reggie Jackson's did.
Thank you. Yeah, I think why it's coming out now is we wanted to wait, to get through all of the legal proceedings.
All right, we going high level. We going high level. It's up there. So if you ain't high level, tune out now. I want you guys to pay attention to just this first part. Listen, we in the first minute of it. I've already picked something up that he's putting down. 50 Cent is a well-rounded individual. When I'm being critical of 50 Cent being used by Netflix, I'm not necessarily even saying it's a bad move. I'm just letting you identify what's going on in real time. And so when I look at 50, right, he's dealing with mainstream media, but he's smart. What they're hoping for is to throw these questions out, cast this wide net, and if he's emotionally involved, he's going to always tie it back to some kind of messy shit and try to shit on Diddy, and they're going to get these incredible clips and time spots with 50 demoralizing Diddy on national TV. But what you have to remain cognizant of is 50 Cent is constantly taking it back to what? The numbers, the business. So while Netflix is trying to use 50, he's using them too. And he's not biting the bait in a way where they can really mean. Now, I'm going to get into something a little later that I think they've used one of his superpowers against him. And he's bit the bait. But in particular on these kind of scenarios, when they're putting him on these mainstream media platforms, and listen, be clear, there's an agenda attached to them putting 50 Cent on these platforms to speak about the documentary. Early on when Diddy was arrested, he threw his hat in the market. He swung his hammer and said, listen, I'll swing at this. I'll take a shot at this. He let all the companies know, all of the studios, anyone interested, someone from Coach as powerful as me, I'll come and speak on behalf of what we feel and give you that notoriety from hip hop culture that y'all always fiend for. Now, they're hoping to get a crash out 50 in front of these cameras. That's why some of these questions are like wide open. But if you pay attention, even when they intro the video, even when they intro the interview, how does the mainstream platforms intro the interview with 50 Cent about the Diddy documentary? They always speak to his long-term feud. This is corporate America effectively throwing 50 under the bus. Now, we the kind of that'll take lemon and make lemonade, that'll take the scraps and make soul food. So they got to be careful because he may know what he's trying to do with it, but I'm telling you, they throwing him under the bus. There's no reason for them to speak on any kind of backlash that's been going on Twitter and Instagram when they're on mainstream media. But there's an agenda attached to it because that footage that they got was because they had a working relationship with Diddy. They're using 50 as a cultural shield. But you must pay attention. 50 is not the sword. 50 is the shield, not the sword. They've always told you that the lion that's roaring ain't the one that's eating. You can't roar with your mouth full. And so 50 is being used by Netflix, but 50 is also smart enough, if you're asking me from a distance, I believe he's smart enough to take this and still do something with it. Pay attention to some more.
The criminal trial, and it spans, it's, four parts, and it spans over 30 years of, pop culture, his life. So it took some time, to say the least, to put all of this together.
It's an important story, and you could just tell it with all the public material. Mm-hmm. You go further, you've gotten your hands on some extra new material people are going to see for the first time, including this video. Any journalist would want to know how you got it, but it is Sean Diddy Combs in the heat of this, right before the arrest for the trial we just discussed, in private moments, talking to his lawyer, cameras running. Let's take a look.
It's the middle of September and there's still no indictment.
Bro, then you have to have a spokesman. You have to have some sort of comms to constantly be pushing that, Mark. Because you may just be a person that you just may watch CNN. So you at the wrong place looking to see what the people with the possible jurors are thinking. It could be somebody that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business of media and propaganda.
50, how'd you get it, and what does that scene show?
Well, I mean, you're a journalist, Harvey. Harvey, you would not disclose your sources.
We usually don't.
Yeah, but I got it. Yeah.
What he said.
and what do you think it conveys? Because we see.
Let's stop right there. Number one, it's interesting. A couple of different things. I think this clip in particular will have the federal government furious, because there's a clear indication that he was trying to affect the jury pool. That's dangerous to let somebody even record me saying that. When, if y'all win in the trial, they get this footage, that's probably could be a mistrial. Well, let's do this over. And let's approach it different, because they might have been beating us on that. That's why they was hitting Diddy with witness tampering and shit, because he was trying to affect people, because he understands marketing. He comes from this world where the narrative is more important than the truth, so he tries to get ahead of it. He also understands how YouTube videos and low-level YouTubers, for the most part, uncovered a lot of this about his sexual background. That's number one. Number two, this conversation about how 50 got the footage is short because he's some witty individual, if you're asking me. I believe the conversation is short because 50 isn't the one that got the footage. Netflix had the footage because they had a working relationship with Diddy. I think 50, again, for the 10th time, he's the cultural shield, so they can get behind him and say he's the bad guy. Now, my new question is, 50 gets all the backlash from it. Who gets all the accolades? It feels like 50 understands that they're trying to put him in a blender because he comes from the music business and it's a cutthroat business. It feels like he understands that. That's why he's not entertaining some of the emotional conversation. When they ask him some of these things, he's wrapping it back around to the numbers, wrapping it back around to how it should perform, wrapping it back around to how many awards it could win, Emmys and other things, because he's trying to stay on the business tip, and they're trying to utilize him like they utilize most of you other guys. You other guys that get up there and really perform. As it pertains to this footage, I believe it came from Diddy working with them, and they knew the camera crew, and they'll probably hide behind the excuse that, yo, this is a camera crew we always work with. 50 worked with them, and he negotiated something. We didn't have anything to do with it. Again, hiding behind 50 Cent. Or it could be the truth. Either way, it's sketchy, and so they needed to utilize 50 Cent from an ethical standpoint. Now, 50 ain't stupid. He's military minded. And so I got new questions for him. My question is, why go so hard like this just for some documentary? Something isn't adding up. And so if you're asking me, something else is loading. Pay attention to a little more. We'll come back with some more commentary.
Someone trying to pull the strings and talking about, he would say affecting, others would say manipulating the public views of the allegations.
I think that, one big theme of the series is to go behind the scenes to really understand how brilliant you could say Sean Combs is at marketing, at owning his narrative, controlling the narrative at all times. And so why would that stop, when his life is on the line? So I think that, on its face, that's what it is. But as you get deeper in the film, you start to realize, perhaps how some of these tactics, how they really came to present themselves, during the trial.
You show that his abilities, his early rise. Right. Alexandra, you also give time to victims of the alleged abuse. Some of the cases are in different procedural postures, and you show victims who were women and men. Why is that important?
Because victims of sexual assault, sexual violence, that should. Gender should not be a part of that conversation. When you are a victim, you are a victim. And I think that, this series was a platform in a way for these alleged victims to come forward, give their truth, put context to their situations when so much of it was ripped out, and we just went, the world was going for the salacious headlines.
Once they studying the stone, man, about to be tripping. A girl that's in my group that was on my last album. You're on my last album now. All of a sudden, I'm this person. I'm this monster. That, man. Gloves coming off.
Alexandria, what does this show in the story you're telling?
Well, this is a moment where the lawsuits, I would say, take a turn and they become very personal for him. Don Richard is one of the alleged victims who filed a lawsuit, and I think that this is a moment where he was nicked. His armor was nicked, I guess you could say, because I think Sean Combs is a person who probably feels like, to step to him, especially legally, takes a lot of courage that I don't think he really assumed that a lot of people were going to have, even though the Cassie, lawsuit had already been out. And so I think he was a little off balance, but that quickly turned to anger.
And 50, the project, I've seen all 4 episodes, it doesn't feel like a personality critique. It feels like it goes to the conduct, the alleged abuse, some of it alleged, some of it proven.
They're searching for in these moments, just to be clear, is emotional attacks. They don't want 50 to bag off the topic like that. Like, yo, I don't see him that way. We haven't got there. We didn't have real problems. I hired his sons. They didn't want that. They put 50 Cent in the forefront of this Diddy documentary to carry the controversy. And because 50 Cent is a warrior with cancers, we lean into the problems. We lean into the beef. We'll lean into it. You want a problem? Let's have a problem. Now they get to use his strength against him. And hopefully this is taken as no disrespect to Netflix, because this is us just analyzing the game. But you tell me another documentary that they rolled out with someone in the way that they're rolling it out with 50 Cent. Framing the entire conversation around a 20-year beef. That 50 is basically on mainstream television saying it really was non-existent. Now, is there something in the backdrop? Of course, Diddy went and got his baby mama, 50 hiring his kids. They're doing little shit to each other, some industry bullshit. But now the corporate structure has really weaponized 50 Cent's strength as it pertains to controversy. And they've hired him to carry the controversy of this documentary. I've never seen them roll a documentary out like this. I've seen them send actors and other things on promo runs and to go and do press. I've never seen them roll it out this way. And I just think you got to pay attention to that. And I know 50 is probably paying attention because he's not biting the bait. He ain't diving all the way in. They'll have saliva dripping from their mouth if he was going straight nuclear. Like if he would start to go on mainstream media and unveil things that just the culture talks about and just, right, they want him to unpack it. And he won't do it. Now, I still believe him to be in a position where Diddy's saying, you've done enough. You might as well cut me all the way down. But for some reason, he's not going all the way nuclear on Diddy in this.
And so although he's not getting too emotional, he's still in a scenario where he's crossed the line, but some's not allowing him to go nuclear on him. And that's what they're looking for. I want to be clear about that. Pay attention now.
And the tragic deaths of both Tupac and Biggie, I think that for us, it was really important to understand some of the dynamics of those three, Sean Combs, Biggie, and Tupac, and what was really going on behind the scenes. That often gets lifted because everyone just wants to talk about, you know, the murder, and not to really digest why.
But do you think a viewer's left with the impression that he was responsible?
I think that that's really up to the court system and not to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or the film. Mm-hmm. We're just presenting, things that have been reported on, have been said by Keefe D, himself repeatedly, mm-hmm. and the LAPD.
Show some love, brother love.
Go on.
No, I'm just saying what Keefe was saying.
What he was saying, yeah. And yeah, you're speaking about a key person who some people would say, oh, that's strong evidence. Other people would say, when you get into years later and people with various agendas, mm-hmm. you don't know.
Now, let me address some of the other things before we get out of here. My question still remains, why is 50 Cent leaning into this documentary so heavy? And because I understand 50 Cent to be someone that's military-minded, very strategic, I believe he has to have something else loading with Netflix. I don't see him putting all of this force behind this one check and one opportunity with Netflix. I'll reiterate that I believe the flyer sent from Diddy was a message, or from someone that works for him was a message that, yo, it's your turn when I get out. Gonna throw a financial mic behind trying to figure out if you could be indicted for some charges. They've already stripped me. The emperor now has no clothes and it's your turn. And I think 50 Cent is from the streets. He understands that nobody is bigger than the program. And maybe he got arrogant at this point. I don't know, but there's an old saying that's been living way longer than all of us, that you're not bigger than the program. And even if you are bigger than the program, you ain't bigger than the handbook. As big as the elephant is, as massive as it is, the jungle is still superior. You are never bigger than the program. So again, I think he has to watch out for that. But I would love to know the amount of money 50 Cent was paid to take on this documentary. because he's actually going back and forth right now with Marlon Wayans online, right? And you don't step in front of a firing squad like this if you're 50 without something else in the backdrop. First look agreement, sponsorships. What is it? What's in the backdrop of this Diddy documentary move?
You have a juror in here. What did that show us about this case? Because there is a tension within all this. It's no stranger to many people that the justice system fails in all sorts of ways. You show how it failed survivors and Cassie, clearly. At the same time, he beat the case in New York. I remember the day it happened, and I looked at 50's Instagram for Diddy News, as so many Americans do. And in all fairness, 50 said, okay, he beat a big part of the case, right? You said. Many people think that was an unjust outcome, but when talking to the jurors, what did you find? Because the film looks at all of this horror, but then finds that a jury of his peers in New York ultimately, in this era, said the government did not prove the whole RICO case.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really complicated. And I think that to break down what went right and what maybe went left or wrong in that trial is that's a whole other documentary. But I think that, we have two jurors, two very different types of New Yorkers, that were interviewed in the film. And I think that when you talk to them, I mean, it was very clear to me that they stood behind that decision. They stood behind it 1,000%. Because they felt that based on the charges that were presented by the federal government, and that they could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Sean Combs was guilty of, RICO.
Yeah. That they overcharged.
That they overcharged. I think that when you get into the, I don't know if our laws or our legal system are the best when it comes to the gray matter of sexual assault.
They had tanks out in front of his house. Like they made a bigger, more extreme approach to the investigation.
So you think the government did basically mishandle what was still strong evidence?
They did overdo it.
They overdid it.
They did great. He beat the case. To me, that what he was charged with, that's a victory. Like that, to end up with 50 months when you had when your life on the line is a victory. But to be the only person that's incarcerated for hiring and transporting male prostitutes is different.
Yeah, life on the line. Also a 50 lyric.
Yeah.
Again, you see 50 handle it in a way where he doesn't just stomp him out. And 50, again, is a smart man. You're going to see him in the coming days, and I've already seen him started now. He's doing interviews and saying, I was the only one speaking up. And if nobody from hip-hop comes out and says anything, then we might co-sign the behavior. I believe 50 to know that that's not the case, because in the streets, you're taught to mind your business. In the streets, things happen, and he comes up in that. And so the bigger the business is, the more of a politician people become, and they understand the language and verbiage to be able to slither their way out of some of the uncomfortable situations. I think 50 is going to stand on it, but I think he's driven himself into a cave that he doesn't profit the most off of. He's been hired by Netflix, to put it in layman's terms, to carry the controversy of a documentary and be from culture and hide behind a cultural shield, but he's not the sword. And I'm seeing him post things like, I want all the smoke. What? For what? About a documentary? I want all the smoke about a documentary? We too level-headed to let him trick us like that, loved one. I want all the smoke about a documentary that ain't on 50action.com. It's on Netflix. Netflix is cloaked behind me as 50 Cent for every piece of backlash. Now let's see, when the Emmys and all these other awards come out, what does the accolades go to? I would love to see the accolades go to 50 the same way the backlash is going to 50. Nobody saying Netflix, y'all dirty mother. Everybody saying 50 wrong. But y'all fed these animals for years and they didn't have our skin color. Y'all go and sit with platforms and run over the white people and tell these stories and give them and break down our vernacular in front of people who don't have any real interest of understanding. They just want to sell the story that's hot at the time. So we've prostituted our entire culture for the entire duration of it. But I'm wondering, what is in the backdrop of this deal with 50 and Netflix? It has to be more. It has to be a multi-doc
deal. It has to be first look agreements. It has to be something else in the mix. Again, I understand 50 isn't greenlit at Netflix. Everybody looks at 50 great businessman, but when it come to Netflix, it ain't just like he got a green light over there, and so he's earning his keep. He's doing a business play against someone I don't care for. But he's from our culture, and usually you protect your own and you discipline your own. In prison, they'll take care of one of their own. Like, hey, you stole something from one of them dudes over there? Y'all don't do nothing. We'll take care of. We'll discipline him. I just think it's an interesting dynamic. At the end of the day, man, we're going to see if Netflix do any more business with 50. If they don't, then we know that my theory was true. But I imagine they will. And not only that, I think it opens the doors for other people that want to take these kind of swings in culture. There's always going to be two sides in hip hop, man, because it's damn near like a sport, man. Shirts and skins. You understand me? It's like football, basketball, any other thing. There's going to be teams. There's going to be alliances. There's going to be cool clubs. There's going to be people kicked out. It's going to be people invited in. It's just an interesting industry, man, and I'm going to continue to watch it. We're not going to have a long episode today, but I want to ask y'all, have you paid attention to how they're handling Max B in the media versus how they handled people from the South, people like Young Thug and others from the South, maybe who came out of jail? When Max B has people who actually are going around saying that he's the reason I'm in jail. I want you guys to understand when there's an orchestrated hit or there's a coup on people in hip hop, and it's unfortunate that a lot of the people that are controlling some of the conversations, they're not even us. They're not from the culture. They didn't grow up playing kickball or football up the hill. They didn't grow up playing Nick Knock or, you know what I'm saying? In some of these neighborhoods, they're like outsiders to the culture, and they're running some of the cultural conversations, and people are bowing down to them. It's a very interesting time. I've told people this years ago that because some people are black, that does not mean they identify with our experience. The Black American has a very unique experience, and it's much more complex than the rappers are able to communicate on music and the movies are able to illustrate through visual entertainment. And because the labels will pump up and do business with anyone, they don't care if you're from the culture or not. If you have an audience, they'll utilize you for your fan base. And they've actually funded a lot of these individuals to get them to positions to be able to dictate what's going on in culture in certain pockets. But we got to be intentional with our brands. We got to be intentional with our invites. I see a lot of these little doing things and they don't make sure none of the dons is in the building. I'd be like, it's a goofy fest. It's a bunch of goofballs in one spot. And they wonder why none of the real have no opinions about them. Because they ain't hearing you talk and they ain't seeing your live streams or they ain't paying attention to that shit. You know what I'm saying? You ain't tapped in with the people that's tapped in with the people. There's a very interesting dynamic going on, but now people are seeing, like, you go on these Twitter pages and it's from Australia, it's from Germany and Nigeria, and that Kendrick bot pages and shit. And it's like, I've been telling y'all this. The reason I know that they're not one of our kind is because they're blatant misunderstanding of culture. I'm saying, yo, these black, but they ain't us. You ain't even got to tell me where you from. Just your misunderstanding of what you looking at. I'm saying, man, some of these black talking about culture, but they ain't really us. They got black skin. They blending in, but based on what he's saying, I understand he don't understand, so he can't be one of us. Because once again, the journey gives you the understanding. When you've been imported and just placed in hip hop, boom. Now you part of this thing of ours. Yo, some of the language you ain't gonna understand, the handshakes, the origin stories, you don't know what's going on. You gotta do the knowledge. Nigga was born in it, not sworn in it. But let's talk about that, right? I don't really know the temperature with Max B, but I do know there's some allegations on his name, right? I don't really speak on it. I don't give a about it, but I do understand that they're there. And I just want the audience to see how they're handling that versus how they handled Young Thug or Gunna or some of the people from the South. There's vitriol on the South because there's a blessing on our southern states. There's not a war, there's not a beef, but some of these guys have cursed souls. Some of these guys have evil spirits. The Young Thug situation ain't even got nobody tied to it.
It's an interrogation room video, and they took the internet by storm. The Max B situation got people trying to do interviews, and they've called me, and I've turned it down. So I'm not interested in exposing it, but I want to expose the people behind some of the orchestrated hits, right? But pay attention to it. If there was a Southern artist, say that was Pooh Shiesty getting out of jail, and it's 2-3 people, it's a girl floating around saying he told, or it's his brother saying, yo, I want to do an interview. They'll be on their platforms every day speaking about that bit because it's someone from New York up north. They're going to put a shield around it. And they ain't going to speak about it because they got to deal with running into some of them guys. Pay attention to that. Look at how Academics even talks to Mano, because there's a chance that I might run into Mano. So he don't, man, no problem. Jim Jones, man, no, that's not this. Right? So because they're so far away from the South and reporting on the South, I think that also gives them leeway to say certain things and handle certain things certain ways. But if we're going to be fair across the board, they would have had a conversation about the Max B thing. I'm not interested in doing it because I don't really care who done told no more. That shit is below my pay grade. Yeah, nah. My pay grade now is who done went public. How much money these folks done got now? We still standing on integrity. But all that shit, who done told shit, that shit below my pay grade. Yeah, we trying to take companies public, man. We doing big business, right? So I'm just saying, like, keep me out of the low level, low budget, low peon ad Leon shit and just keep me top tier. You understand me? But I appreciate y'all watching today, man. Y'all know what it is. It's Up There Podcast. Make sure y'all hit like and share. Let somebody know you was there. Make some clips. Tag me in the clips. I'll repost them. Let the people know, man, we always listening to It's Up There Podcast. That's the only place we get the game at, man. That means something, man. I really appreciate y'all. Love y'all. You know that. I ain't got to keep saying it. Don't you know it? Tell the truth. Don't you know it, though? All right, then. Over and out. I see y'all in a few days. Let's get it.